Hey y'all, welcome back to Moments with Miss Amy. I am so glad you joined me. So I was talking with a friend earlier and I'd made a comment about how I had been getting up at 5 a.m. each day this week, but this morning I'd fallen back to sleep and I wasn't up until 6:30. And it was funny because they were like, oh, no, that's like way too much for me. When I don't get home sometimes until 9:30 at night, and there's no way I could be up so early. And the conversation went on, and that was good. And then I talked to my daughter a little bit later, and she pointed out with kind of a laugh, she says, I remember, Mom, when sleeping in was 8, 9, 10, 10:30, whatever. And now you're like, oh goodness, here I am, not up until 6:30. Where's my day gone? And so we were just kind of laughing about it. And one of the realizations that I had was I'm not any more tired being up at 5 o'clock and in the morning than I was when I was getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm just kind of reflecting into why. And so Georgia and I talked about it a little bit, and it got my mind going, and then my mind went a little further. And so that's why I wanted to share with you. So a couple different things. And there'll be a scripture that I'm going to share later on, but I'm going to switch things up just a little bit. So getting up at that hour right now is because I know that I need to be at my best me. Stevie Marie who's somebody that I follow, and she's a mentor, but she made a comment about how she's not able to have the future that she wants, staying the person that she is. And the realization that we have to up things a little bit to be able to be that success character that we need to be to get the future that it is that we want. And so that's one of the things that has helped me to start making myself get up earlier. But the other thing is, and again, this is another quote from her, but is that inspiration is the motivation that we need. And I realized that even though I was trying to be motivated before to do these kind of things, the more that I've gotten inspired with where I'm going with my future, what I'm creating and what I'm doing has helped to get that motivation moving a little bit more, has made it easier for me to go ahead and get up and get out of bed. Now, I've had to make some changes on what I do. And this morning was a reminder that I really need to stick with those changes. As you guys know, I do, well, a lot of you know, maybe not everybody, but anyways, because of my chronic pain, I have stretches that I do each day. Now, if I don't do the stretches, I'm at a point now that sometimes I can get away with a day or so that I don't really notice how much worse it is, sometimes not even that much, but most of the time, if I don't do my stretches every day, I have challenges moving. And sometimes it gets a lot worse. That's not what we're talking about today. But what happens is I was in the mornings when I would wake up making myself do my stretches first thing. And sometimes that was great. Other times I'd be half stretching and I'd be out, sound asleep, and stretching didn't happen until I woke up again. So I learned that because there were things that I wanted to accomplish, I had to sacrifice doing the stretches when I first woke up and make sure that later on in the day, I took the time to do it and to get those stretches done. But that meant that I was getting up, getting out of bed, and then I could start doing something. And then I had to have an idea of what it was that I wanted to do and have myself inspired as to knowing that if I accomplish this, it's going to move me this much closer to that, which is exactly where I want to be. And so making sure that I was utilizing my time in the best way that I could, right? So realizing that by getting up earlier and beginning to accomplish the things that I was excited to be accomplishing, and then seeing how I'm not any more tired than I was when I was getting up at 8 o'clock and wasn't getting this stuff done, made me realize that sometimes when we sacrifice something, it can really change things. So now I'm going to bring in the scripture, then we're going to go a little further. Okay, so this scripture is Hebrews 13:16. Do not neglect to do good and share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Now, a lot of times when we think about sacrifice, and maybe you've never thought about sacrifice, but for myself, a lot of times when I thought about sacrifice, I would think about, like when I was reading in the old time, in the old scriptures, in the Old Testament, and where it talked about, that they would take an animal and sacrifice it. Not just animals, y'all. They would take wine, they would take oil, and they would also take grain and sacrifice it, burning it, giving off a fragrance, okay? And so those are the kind of things that I thought about with sacrifice. But then I've also sometimes thought about sacrifice as being a financial thing, where I've given financially as a sacrifice to help out others, help out someone. Because also scripturally, you can see that where, they brought silver to the temple to create, the utensils and whatever else in there. And so both of those are accurate. They're both sacrifices that were done Old Testament, and there are sacrifices that we can do. I mean, for one, I don't know how much we've talked about it. Maybe one day I'll get into it with you. But I believe in tithing, which is giving 10% of what I make to the Lord, because I believe that He blesses the rest of that 90% more than if I hadn't given it at all. And again, we'll stop there because I'm not going to get into a whole conversation today on it. But, so these are all sacrifice. But what about if the sacrifice that you give is of yourself? What about if the sacrifice that you give is, for example, like me getting up earlier so that I can get onto the computer to do what I need to do to share what I know with others, to give them hope and to inspire them and to encourage them and to teach them? What if that's my sacrifice that I choose to do? What if by doing that, I am moving in my calling, in my purpose, and I am creating this entire positive energy flow that is causing me, even though I'm sacrificing, even though I'm giving up, I'm not sleeping as long, I'm spending more time creating and doing and giving and sharing, and yet I feel better. I feel more energetic. I feel more alive. I'm happier. There's more of a positivity coming off of me. People have spoke to me and said, wow, I don't know what you've done different, but you just seem to come across with like more confidence and more energy. And it's because of those sacrifices that I'm making of changing my life around to fit in the time to do what I know that I need to do. And because of doing that, I am creating such positive energy and a positive ripple. I'm already seeing it in the effects of the people that I work with, that I'm helping out, that I'm encouraging, that I'm teaching, that I'm inspiring. I'm seeing their lives changing because of what I'm sacrificing and pouring in. So how about you? What is that you could be doing, that you could sacrifice? Choose your sacrifice, because you know what? We do it anyways. What do I mean? What am I talking about? How do I mean that you sacrifice anyways? Well, honey, here's the deal. If you're sleeping in, those hands laid to rest as you're sleeping, right there, you're sacrificing the great for the good. Now, I'm not saying don't sleep at all, for goodness sake, and if you are young and growing, there is definitely scientific evidence that says you guys do need specific numbers of sleep. But if you're like me, and how I've done on and off over the years, with needing my, 8 to 10, 11 hours of sleep at times, make sure you're paying attention to your body. Is it that it really needs that sleep right now in this extra moment? Or is it that you're not inspired to be motivated to sacrifice? Hope these things made you think. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on it. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Hit that little bell so you know when the next video drops. Make sure you hit like, and I would love, like I said, to hear some comments. So, what is it you're willing to sacrifice? I want to thank you guys again for joining me for Moments with Miss Amy.